We may be done. I'm not sure. There might be a couple more witnesses tomorrow. We got out a little early today. They really this afternoon there wasn't a whole lot of anything that I didn't talk about today. This morning, couple witnesses, essentially some more body cam that was shown of Officer Decruz saying, quote, "I'm so fucking done," and sobbing on the ground, trying to be comforted by some other fellow officers there. So we had 1, 2, 3 witnesses about that. Yeah, awesome. 20K. I don't know what that means, but uh, I don't really do this necessarily for followers. I know some people, they're like, "Hey, CJ, you need to put out more content so you can get more followers." And I'm like, just, I think people will come here eventually. And that's not really why I do this. I do this just to put out information and hopefully it helps somebody. The last witness that was for most of the afternoon from about 2:10 on till now was this Lieutenant Paul Moody. He was so he's a senior law enforcement officer in Temple Police Department, also a trainer, and essentially, look, here's really what the testimony said this afternoon. It was that Officer Decruz has a problem following policy. Okay, he has a problem following the Temple Police Department manual. The prosecution or the defense's argument, and this is hard for me because I'm a defense attorney. I just won't represent bad cops. I'll represent good cops against bad cops. But the defense has a losing case here. After watching 2 weeks of testimony, it's crystal clear. And I think I put day 9. That's just day 9 for me. I think we're at day 11 or something like that because I missed 2 days of testimony. But they have, in my opinion, a losing case. And when you've got a defendant that you do everything you possibly can as a defense attorney for your client, even if that client is a cop. And so I understand what the defense is trying to do. They're trying to make the best case possible. They're trying to essentially turn what is manure into a manure sandwich. Okay, they're trying to at least make it palatable, and that's just not going to work. I don't think. I don't think the jury is buying a lot of these arguments because one of the defense's main argument is, hey, we're not here about policy violations, right? We're not here about the fact that the Temple Policy Manual says that you're not supposed to go on high-speed chases over traffic incidents. Texas law says you can. Okay, and he's not charged with violation of this. Do you know what he's charged with? Well, yeah, he's charged with manslaughter. Okay, well, then all this other stuff doesn't matter. So I understand. You got to do what you got to do. You got to try and make the best case you possibly can. In the end, the question for the jury is going to be, does a man deserve to be killed? I almost said murdered. Killed unjustifiably for over a traffic citation, essentially what is a traffic violation. Even if it rose to a DWI, that's not the reason he was pulled over, does a man deserve to have been killed by a cop is the ultimate question for the jury at this point. And I think the state has done a great job of showing that not only does he not deserve to be killed, but the cop sort of went out of his way to create the circumstances that led to this guy's death. He parked his vehicle in a way that was disadvantageous, where he wasn't able to use his cruiser lights to illuminate the scene and to illuminate the vehicle. And that darkness caused confusion and stress and ultimately the life of an innocent man. And I say innocent, what I mean is somebody that hasn't done anything worthy of being killed. And so that's the big problem that they have here. I mean, the testimony today was, when you go hands on, these are some of the statements I wrote down. When you're by yourself, you don't want to have your weapon out. Okay. When you're by yourself, you essentially, if it's something that you're worried about having a weapon that you think you need your weapon, then you need to keep the person in the vehicle and you stay in your vehicle until backup arrives. When you go hands on, you typically holster. So at the time that Decruz is getting the keys from Michael Dean, at that point his gun should have been holstered, not still pointed at his head. And the officer made that very clear, that at the very least you don't point it at the suspect, because you only point your gun at something you plan to destroy. Well, apparently Decruz planned to destroy Michael Dean, and that's exactly what he did. He says, and once again, we've heard this from expert witness after expert witness after expert witness after witness after witness after witness. When you pull up behind a suspect vehicle, or pull up to a suspect vehicle that you're pulling over, you pull up behind the suspect. You don't go into this blocking maneuver. This cop even said they don't train on blocking maneuvers. So, like, where he got this idea that he's supposed to go around and move his vehicle in the front, that came out of thin air. It was nothing that TPD or T-Cole or anyone trained on. He said that it was a tactical disadvantage to make contact with Dean the way he did. So the officer even admitted that he put himself in jeopardy. Being in front of the vehicle increases stress of the officer. And remember how the testimony earlier said that when an officer is stressed, or was it a stressed officer may take actions based on fear. That was the previous testimony. Also, more officers equal less stress. And that was from Police Chief Hunt was the one who said that more officers equal less stress, and that a stressed officer may take actions based on fear. And so this officer, this expert witness, also said he didn't see Decruz in any way slowing down the situation. In other words, de-escalating. Didn't seem to be de-escalating at all. When Decruz saw that there were no keys in the ignition, he could have de-escalated even more at that point, and he didn't. Once there's no keys in the car, there's no flight risk. Why do you got your gun out? Okay, you don't see any other firearms or anything like that. Once the keys are removed from the car's not going anywhere. Put your freaking gun away. I put down a note here listening to this testimony because, and again, it's all technical stuff, so I'm not going to bore you with it all. But I wrote down a note here. Decruz has to be thinking at this point that he's fucked. He's got to. Now, here was a genius thing that the state did, got this expert witness to admit to, because manslaughter, remember, manslaughter is not murder. It's homicide, but it's not murder, because murder requires premeditation. But she got the officer to say that Decruz's actions were a deviation from the standard of care for a typical officer. So that's an important element of proving manslaughter. What I'm going to do probably tomorrow, if this case goes to the jury, when I do my next update, actually I'll probably do it tomorrow because I think it's going to the jury tomorrow. If you'd like, and leave it in the comments here, if you'd like this, is sort of an explanation about, what's the difference between murder one, murder two, what's the difference between murder and manslaughter, that kind of stuff. If that's something you're interested in, I can give you a video on that tomorrow. If you'd rather just do your research online, you can do your research online. There's a little bit of nuance to it, not much, but I can tell you that in law school, we spend a lot of time trying to distinguish between murder and manslaughter, because sometimes those lines are very blurred. So anyway, he did get him to say that his actions were a deviation from the standard of care for a typical officer, which means it was negligent, which goes into negligence for manslaughter. Now, this is what I sort of think that the state did wrong. The defense, when they were doing their cross-examination, brought up all these things like you're not on trial for best practices in gun usage or breathing techniques or blocking positions or failure to make a radio call or going on a pursuit. And then he asked, have you ever had to, and then he's like, have you ever been involved with somebody who didn't comply? And have you ever been involved with somebody that did this and did that? And then this question, have you ever had to fight drunk people off before? Now, keep in mind, he had already established that, and the evidence shows that Michael Dean likely had a blood alcohol level of 2.0, 2.5 times over the legal limit, okay? Have you ever had to fight off drunk people before? And of course, the officer said yes. A lot of people have done that. What I was a little disappointed in the state is that when they got a chance to go back and redirect, my question would have been, how many drunk people have you just shot because they were drunk and fighting you? That should have been the follow-up question. How many drunk people have you had to shoot? How many unarmed drunk people have you had to shoot? How many unarmed DWI people that you pulled over have you had to shoot? Because I guarantee you there's a lot of drunk people who were likely not doing, drunk people that weren't complying. I guarantee you there are a lot of drunk people that weren't complying, but they're still alive. I bet you there's a lot of people who were pulled over and told to get out of a car and refused to do so, and they're still alive. There's a lot of people who have fought cops and they're still alive. Barely. They tried to kill me. So that would have been my follow-up question for the jury is, okay, you said you've had to fight off drunk people before, right? Yes. How many of those drunk people that you were fighting with did you shoot in the head? Can you imagine the impact that would have had on the jury? I mean, that's like that's what I would have done. How many drunk people that you have pulled over that, fought with you over the keys did you shoot in the head? That's the only misstep I think that the state did today and throughout this trial. And I've been trying to keep up with what would I do? What would CJ do? I mean, Monday morning quarterbacking, but that's essentially what the testimony was today. Personally, unless there's someone on that jury, and I'm really only concerned about one person on that jury based on my observations. But unless someone on that jury decides that there's just no way they're going to convict a cop, or in some way they have sympathy for the cop, for Officer Decruz, former Officer Decruz, I see him being convicted of this. Worst case scenario, I see a hung jury because, like I said, worst case scenario, I think I have singled out 3 of the jurors that are definitely probably just not going to acquit this guy. And so the worst case scenario is it's a hung jury because someone refuses to say he didn't do anything wrong, and they stick to their guns, and they demand a conviction. I think that's the worst case scenario, but I think the state's proven its case, and I know I came into this bias, but I have tried to be objective in listening to the evidence. And I'm sorry, but the defense, there's just no defense. Everything's on video. We've got body cam, we've got dash cam, we've got witness statements. The only person that hasn't been able to say what happened is the man that was killed by Officer Decruz. So anyway, I will be back tomorrow morning, bright and early. Should have an update for you by lunch. And hopefully that update will be that the case has been sent to the jury, and hopefully we'll have a decision by the end of the day tomorrow, and this can be over with, and I can find some other way to waste my time. All right, y'all. Hey, take care. Let me see if there's any questions here real quick. I haven't done this in a while. So, did they drug or alcohol test any cops? Nope. No, not that I'm aware of. Lenny, I asked him to post. It was brutal trying to get him to use... I think the reason I think if you're talking about me, why I'm not getting more views, I don't post regularly enough. I used to get, this channel has like tens of millions of views on videos, but I used to, when I was very so 3 years ago, I got a lot of views because I was very active with activism and things like that. Now, with 3 years of law school, I didn't really have anything interesting to talk about. And now I'm just trying to find my way through life. Once I'm done with this bar stuff, with the Texas bar, believe me, you're going to be hearing from me a lot. And I will explain everything that's been going on right now with the bar. But I'm going to let the situation resolve itself. And when it's resolved, I'll tell you all exactly what's been going on. And it's not good. Okay, it's not good. The system is corrupt. All right, guys, take care. Be safe. Be free. I know you know that. I just told you again.